Hi, I'm Joe and welcome to the channel. In this Inspired By series, I like to write an original piece of music, either inspired by an artist or a genre of music. And then I show you kind of the tips and techniques that make up that style of music by breaking down all the guitar parts for you in hopes that you can incorporate it in your own playing. In this Inspired By video, we're going to take on Riff Country. Let's jump into the track and then I'll break it all down for you. This riff country music is really a lot of fun to play, and it's always amazing to me how those Nashville players can really build and create different unique lead lines off of basic chord shapes. It's like they never run out of ideas. It's really amazing how they can come up with these really cool riffs based off of some simple chords. And also, I have to tell you, I admired their playing behind the beat. I really didn't do a very good job of that in this track. I'm having a hard time still learning to do that, just trying to relax my body and play a little bit behind the beat. If you notice and you listen to this music, that's really what makes it so great feeling. They're really behind a little bit in the beat, laying that beautiful pocket down when they're laying down these cool little riffs. And that's something that I still have to work on. But let me show you a little bit about the guitar parts here, and we'll break things down for you, starting with guitar part 1. And guitar part 1 is basically playing a riff off of the E chord. And you'll notice I'm doing hybrid picking. So I'm going to start off with my pick on the low E, and then I'm going to hammer on to the 5th of the chord, the B, and then I'm going to pick up with my hybrid picking the D note. So I'm basically almost outlining an E7 chord. And I come back to the B, and then I hit the root, the E, again on the D string. And if you notice, in between that, I'm kind of doing a ghost note of a pick to get that chicken pick sound. So I'm first hitting with my thumb, my pick I should say, and then I'm picking with my second finger to pick up that. So it's a little bit of a ghost note. There's really not a note there. And then I'm kind of continuing on with that chicken picking idea. And for that, I'm basically doing a hybrid picking again, E twice, and then pulling off to the D again. And I'm kind of tweaking that third, that G. And after I do that bend, I'm releasing and hitting the E again to set up the riff all over again. Now I'm taking the same exact thing, but I'm moving over to the 4 chord, the A. So it's the same motion, basically, the same type of pattern even with the playing. I'm hitting the open A, hammering on to the 5th, the E, hitting that open G with my hybrid picking, and hitting the root now with the A. And in between there, those ghost notes. And then I'm tweaking that third and ending it off there, and then coming back to the E again. Now when I get to this next part, I'm going to borrow a chord. I'm going to basically play a G chord to an A major, back to the E, riff. Same thing again, G, A. And now I'm going to go into a new section. We're going to go to a C chord, to a D chord, to a C, and a quick kind of a G over B. I'm looking at this as kind of a G shape here, and I'm putting the B in the bass. Up to the D, and then the C again, to the D, and then a quick G to A, and then back to the riff to end off the song. And I'm doing basically a little bit of a Hendrix run, if you will, or an old, I shouldn't say Hendrix run, I don't know. Oh yeah, made from Hey Joe. But I'm doing basically a unison thing. You'll find this a lot in kind of this country music, where they'll take the flat 7 and slide up to the root, while also hitting the open E string, so you have that dissonance. And there's that flat 7 against the root again. And I do the same thing where I slide up from the A to the B, but I'm also hitting the open B string. So I have that root, that rubbing again. And then ending it off on a big E chunk. I did something similar to that, I think. So you can end off basically with just a little bit of a riff at the end to try to add a little bit of spice to the ending of that guitar part 1. For guitar part 2, I basically added a tremolo. I lost the pick, and I set the tremolo to basically an 1/8 note pulse. It's roughly an 1/8 note pulse. I find lots of times that we try to be always on the grid with things, and sometimes it just sounds a little bit more mysterious if you're slightly off. You don't have to exactly be on the grid for having your pulses of your motion of your tremolo, but just get it close. Really gives it kind of that nasty vibe, if you will. And all I'm doing here is basically outlining the chords, while the first guitar part is doing that riff over it. So we're basically playing a power chord in E, and we're letting that ring out while the first guitar is playing over it. We're going to go to the A power chord, back to an E. And when I say power chord, I really am playing that. I'm just playing an E and the B, the root, and the 5th, and the same thing on the A chord, the root, and the E, the 5th, for that. And then when it goes to the G, I'm really trying to focus, I'm playing the bass note, but I'm really focusing more on the middle 2 strings, opening, which is the open D and G. And then I'm laying down my A chord, but again, mainly focusing on the 2 middle strings, so I'm playing basically the E and the A octave, again, just a power chord. And you will notice, I believe that I did play the low G with that top half, and the low A. When we get to the C and the D chord, again, I'm trying to stay more focused on a different frequency range. You don't want to be too muddy and keep playing in the same area the other guitars are playing at. So I'm trying to emphasize the middle strings again. And for the power chord of the C to the D, I'm really staying in here. I'm playing the power chord kind of in reverse, where I'm playing the 5th, G, and C, the root on top. And I slide it up for the D chord. Still a power chord, just the notes are flip-flopped where the 5th is on top. And for that little move where we play that G over B, I'm basically able to do right in this position. I'm playing the G and the C here, so all I have to do is move my C note on the G string down 1 fret to pick up the B. And then up to the D. And the C and D again. So I'll play that part for you just in continuity so you can hear what it sounds like. Well, that was the wrong rhythm. The octave. You remember the first guitar went like this. For this, I'm just picking up the octave, playing the same power chord, and then right back into the low E to finish off the song. So the final guitar part is actually an acoustic guitar part that's kind of hidden in the track a little bit. I shouldn't say hidden, but it's panned left and hard right. It's a double guitar, a double acoustic guitar part that's basically just adding a little bit of texture. It's always nice to have in your music some texture, some different sonic sounds. So we already have this heavy electric guitar, I shouldn't say heavy, but this distorted kind of overdriven, I should say, guitar part playing the first riff. We have the tremolo sound of the second guitar part. So now we're adding a little bit of an organic element with the acoustic guitar happening. And again, this is the same part, just panned left and right, just doubled basically. And all I'm doing is I'm playing a kind of a power chord again of the E chord. But you'll notice a different fingering here. What I'm doing is I'm playing your normal E that you would see here, but I'm moving my B up here on the G string, and I'm hitting the octave E here on the B string. So now I basically have all E, B, E, B, E. That's the whole thing. It's just a big power chord, just stacked. And I hold that and let it ring. And then I do something here. I basically am going to take my first finger and just go down 1 fret to expose the open A when we get to the A chord. But I'm leaving the B and the E on top. And it's adding a little bit of a nice ninth sound. And then going back to the E. And then when we get to that G to the A part, I'm actually just picking up from this bar shape here, the top half. Again, I'm trying to find new frequencies. We know the first guitar is hitting this. The second guitar is basically focused in on the middle strings. So for this guitar, focusing more on the top 3 strings. And then we go back to the E here. Same thing again. And when we get to the C to the D part, I'm basically going to be playing a C9 chord. And all I'm doing here is I'm playing the C root, I'm dampening, I'm basically arching my finger over slightly to mute that D string. So all you're hearing is a G, all you're hearing is a C, a G, a D, and then a G on top. And I'm trying to keep with the pulse of the bass note. You'll notice the bass is doing these quarter notes. So I'm trying to do that now with chords. To the D chord, back to that C9, quick, grabbing that B for that one part. For the G to the A, I'm just basically doing a normal G and normal A bar chord. And then back to that E chord to finish off the song. So there's a lot of great things that you can take away from this genre of music. Learning to build riffs off of basic chord shapes and having fun with that, adding texture, but also if you notice, a lot of this stuff is kind of simple. We're not trying to overdo things or show off our playing. Why? Because we're trying to support the song. And if this was a real song, there might have been a vocal on top telling a story. And you don't want to get in the way of that. So you want to come up with very simple guitar parts. And remember, when you're laying down your guitar layers, to try to think in different frequency ranges. So you'll notice that you had lower guitar parts, kind of the middle guitar parts, and then the upper guitar parts, just to add a little bit of sonic, spectrum to your song. Now, as always, down in the description below, I'll leave a practice track for this. I'll leave the entire track. There will actually be 2 tracks. The first one will be the full band, and the second one will be just the bass and drums, so you can play and make up your own guitar parts over this music. That's another Inspired By video down. I hope that you found some value in this, and if you did, would you do me a favor? I'm really trying to grow the channel. Would you help me out by subscribing down below and hitting the like button? And while you're down there, leave a comment. Let me know potentially what kind of styles and genre music you might like to see in this series. I'm always open to your suggestions. As always, I wish you a fantastic day.